Really, since 9/11, we have not seen, our minority groups, Arab, Muslim, under attack like they are now. Obviously, physical attacks here and there, verbal harassments and intimidation, but also what's more sinister is just like this systematic legal mechanisms that are being put in place right now to suppress us and to push a narrative forward that the powers that be want to have be the prevailing narrative. So we're fighting that tooth and nail, and we our community of Muslims and Arabs right now we're educated, we're smart, we have voices, we're using those voices, and we're ringing the alarm bells everywhere we can. For example, in the immigration space, we are working on TPS for Palestine.
TPS?
Yeah, TPS is temporary protected status.
Okay.
So it's available to individuals from certain countries if their country is facing a natural disaster or a war or a genocide, obviously, like we're seeing in Palestine. And the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, along with the President and the Secretary of State, must designate a certain country or an area of the country for temporary protected status. And basically that helps all of the Palestinians that are already in the United States. So there are Palestinians in the United States right now that are on tourist visas, that are on student visas, that are on work visas that expire. And if they expire, their options are really limited if they don't go back to their home country. And if they go back to their home country, their likelihood of dying is very high. So normally in situations like this, the US government will grant special protections to individuals of those countries. And we are, there's a group of like 25, 30 immigration lawyers. We started this push for TPS for Palestine, and really in the past month, it has taken off. I mean, there's letters out there that have over 100 Congress people who have signed them.
Wow.
We have confirmation from those offices that, this idea has been spoken into President Biden's ear, and that those secretaries of Department of Homeland Security and State are aware of this, and it's a very high priority for them. So I'm really hoping that we can get that. That would help the Palestinians that are here immediately, and then we can kind of shift our focus to helping the Palestinians that are out of the United States. We are doing that already, but unfortunately, the options are very, very limited right now. The options are very limited right now. I actually had a call with some healthcare professionals that wanted to evacuate multiple people of their staff from Gaza, and unfortunately their options are very limited.
Right.
So we're doing what we can right now to protect those that are here, and we're backing up the kind of boots on the ground resources with whatever kind of legal support that they need, because right now the situation, like, there's no one in, no one out. Gaza is just an enclosed prison. And I think sometimes that, it's built that way. I mean, it's a concentration camp. It's built to be easily closed off. You can flick a switch and Gaza will be closed to the world. And I think that's the way that's designed in order for, the Israeli government to implement its most sinister practices, as some of the most horrible things we've ever seen. But you were talking earlier also about them using the laws against us, and they are using the laws to justify their occupation and to justify what they're doing. That's a double-edged sword. We have laws too. We have laws that we can exploit. There's so much out there that we as lawyers who are on the side of a free Palestine can do here in the United States, to take legal action against what's going on. And I think that's going to be the kind of next foray into legal help for Palestinians, is what we're going to do after, how we're going to make you pay, right?
It's not like us as Americans, or minority Americans especially the Black community, who's gone through Jim Crow. Before that, slavery was basically legal. And then even in more modern times, the expanded surveillance on Muslims and essentially the ban on free speech for people who want to participate in the BDS movement.
Yeah.
We're seeing this types of shutdowns all over different states, different campuses. And it's almost like, shouldn't the Bill of Rights supersede these state laws and these anti-boycott laws that are passing? Because don't I have the right to free speech as the First Amendment? Don't I have the right to protest because of the First Amendment? So how is it that they're able to, and I don't know if you know the answer, but how is it that they're able to pass these laws if, in my head, what makes the most sense is anything that's on the Bill of Rights or anything that's in the First Amendment of the United States is, that should supersede anything.
Yeah, so it does. And there's actually something in the Constitution called the Supremacy Clause, which basically says that this is the supreme law of the land. And there's a concept, a doctrine in the law that's called preemption. So preemption means that there's like a hierarchy of laws. So if there's a county law, the state law trumps it, right? If there's a federal law, it trumps the state law, right? If it's in the Constitution, it trumps everything. So yeah, you're right, but the Constitution only applies to U.S. government actors. It does not apply to private corporations. So the Constitution protects you against infringements on your right by the government, not necessarily by private actors. So if a police officer comes to you and tries to get you off the sidewalk because you're protesting, yeah, he's violating your First Amendment. You have an argument that he's violating your First Amendment. But if your employer fires you for saying something, there's no First Amendment protection. There's no First Amendment protection there. There are federal laws like the Civil Rights Act that fill the gap that you can possibly, sue under those laws. But the U.S. Constitution does not protect you. Unfortunately, even the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution is getting twisted like crazy by, these state legislators. Like if you see the anti-BDS laws that are passed, they're blatantly unconstitutional. I mean, there's no way that a law like that, it should have been laughed out of every legislative branch that it ever stepped foot in. Yeah. But for some reason they pass, and they know that they're never gonna survive. I mean, they're getting struck down by courts left and right. I think the only one that has survived so far is like one from Arkansas. It's kind of like oddball, outlier. They've all been struck down, and it's just a no-brainer argument that you strike these laws down. But that's not preventing them from passing them anyways, because they know that by the time it gets to the courts, some of their intended impact would have already been done, right? They wanted that media attention, or they didn't want that person to work for them, and she didn't sign the contract, and they wanted to bring this to a talking point in the media or something like that. So even though they're breaking the law blatantly, they still pass it, and just they want those sinister effects, no matter if it's a clear violation of the Constitution.